You know what is something that I hear a lot from Marvel fans that I just don't agree with? Is that DC only cares about and only pushes Batman and Superman comics. That they don't care about any other characters, products, or comics. And if only DC limited the amount of comics that these two characters and their family got, maybe other characters would get a chance to shine. And this is a statement that I just flat out disagree with. Allow me to explain. There has been multiple initiatives over the years in which DC has tried to bring you newer characters, new comics, and even take risk on titles that aren't necessarily always the most popular choices. Take, for example, the New 52. And yes, while there was a lot of Batman and a lot of Superman in the New 52, if you remove those titles, you still have 30 plus titles here for you to read of different characters in different type of storytelling. You add the horror and supernatural aspect of the DC universe with Swamp Thing, Animal Man, Justice League Dark, Resurrection Man, I, Vampire, all great titles. You had a bunch of superheroes that got titles that weren't connected to the Bat family, Superman family, or Green Lantern family. Stuff like Hawkman, Hawk and Dove, Mr. Terrific, Static Shock, Stormwatch, among many others. Hell, you even had risky genre titles, such as All-Star Western, which was a Western-based title, or Men at War, which is a soldier or war title, or Demon Knights, which was a straight fantasy sword and sorcery title. And every time someone brings up Batman and Superman being pushed, I always ask them, well, did you read Mr. Terrific from New 52? Did you give I, Vampire a shot? What about Grifter or Voodoo? Or Stormwatch? And the answer's always the same. No, I didn't read those titles. How are you going to expect a title to succeed and become an ongoing if you don't read it, you don't purchase it? DC did this again 6 years later with DC Rebirth, which brought in a bunch of new titles, all going to #1. And while you did have your staples like Superman, Batman, Aquaman, Green Lantern, you had a bunch of new titles for you to jump into and experience. And again, did you pick up those titles? Because whenever I ask someone, did you read the Terrifics? I don't get too many yeses. Or even now with DC's latest initiative, which is Adonis DC, which again, while it does have Batman and Superman titles, it has really done a concerted effort to bring in more unique and different titles and characters. And sure, you had some staples coming back, Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, Flash, but you also get other titles like City Boy, Spirit World, The Vigil, Steelworks, Hawkgirl, even Alan Scott and Jay Garrick are getting titles. Again, DC showing their effort to bring you newer and different things. It goes back to what I've said before. If you want a title to succeed, you have to pick it up and you have to read it. The reason why characters like Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man are popular is because they are read, they are picked up. People consistently grab the characters. And maybe this is because they're grandfathered in, but it's not for the lack of DC trying to promote their stuff. The New 52 was heavily marketed. You saw marketing for characters like Batman and Superman, but you also saw Deathstroke, Hawk and Dove, Resurrection Man. They were in every single issue. DC Rebirth was heavily marketed. Every single title was put in a comic or was online or in some way, shape, or form was giving you information that these comics were coming out, and there were a ton to pick from. Just like the marketing for the Dawn of DC. They are pushing out their characters and their new titles, and they're letting you know those titles are there. So it's not a problem about marketing. But here's a funny thing. Marvel fans will complain about Batman and Superman being pushed, but they completely ignore these guys, the X-Men, or Spider-Man. X-Men is my favorite property of Marvel, but goddamn, if you look at the current X-Men titles, there's more X-Men titles than Superman and Batman combined. And although X-Men is my favorite Marvel property, I only read a couple of the titles. I actually had to go online and look up all the titles that are going on right now, and there's a lot of them. And for good reason, they're popular characters, just like Batman and Superman. So if you're going to be complaining about the oversaturation of Batman and Superman, don't forget about these guys right here. X-Men actually have so many titles that one of the things Marvel does, and it's a very smart idea, is they give you a checklist of what titles to read, and sometimes puts it in the order in which you should read them. Take, for example, the Fall of X event, which, again, shows you all the titles that are being involved in that event. This is something Marvel has been doing for a long time. X-Men, X of Swords, literally the chapters and what issues to read them in. AVX, again, the titles, what order to read them in. There's nothing wrong with this either. X-Men is an incredibly popular property. There's a reason why there's so many titles to them. And it's smart that Marvel makes a checklist. But the purpose of me showing this checklist is that X-Men have a lot of titles because they sell. You know who else sells? These two guys right here. If you want there to be more characters out there that are not Batman or Superman, then go and purchase those characters. Pick up City Boy. Go grab Mr. Terrific. Invest in Hawkman. If you see Swamp Thing, read it. These are all characters not associated with these big two. But if you don't pick them up, that's fine. But you can't blame DC. Because DC is a company, just like Marvel. And while they will try to promote new products to you, they are ultimately going to push the products that sell. They need to make money. That's why there's so much Batman, so much Superman, so much Spider-Man, and so much X-Men. So, not only do I not agree with the statement that Marvel fans say that only these characters are pushed, but I find it interesting that they won't bring up that there's more X-Men titles than these two combined, or that there's so many Spider-Man titles.
Incredible. What'd you say?